struggling. All right, so a little bit of background first, just for those folks that don't know what the hell that's all about. So using Kibli as your email marketing software for your Amazon business to send your emails to your Amazon customers is cool. I use Kibli, very, very good piece of software, very cool. But you can also do something called what allows you to get the actual email addresses of your Amazon customers. So Kibli will facilitate that for you. It's actually the process is something called an email append, which means that it takes different data points and then gets the email address from those data points. So it might look at their name, their address, their social media profile, yada, yada, yada. And from all those different disparate parts, it will say, this is their actual email address. And that's a really cool thing to have in your Amazon business because it will facilitate some pretty sexy things. One of those sexy things is the ability to use those email addresses to find more customers for your Amazon business. So Facebook has this thing which is called lookalikes. Interestingly enough, you can also do lookalikes in YouTube. You can also do lookalikes in Google as well, not only for display but also for search too. Most folks don't realize that, but you can. But let's talk about Facebook. So Facebook has this thing called creating a lookalike audience. And what that basically means is Facebook will take a given number of email addresses. Let's say you give it 500 email addresses, for instance. It will take those email addresses. It will then put them into its own Facebook system. It will look at each individual email address and match it to a Facebook profile. It will take that Facebook profile and say, well, Neil is interested in, Formula One and sci-fi and this kind of music and that sort of stuff. And then it will take all those disparate data points and it will go out into the greater universe of Facebook users and find heaps of people who are a lot like your existing customers. And that's a very, very cool thing to do. Typically, when I'm running Facebook campaigns, my lookalike campaigns based on my customers consistently perform very, very well. Typically, they do best. So if you can do that, it's a really cool thing to do. So how do you do it? Well, let me just pause that again. I don't want to be giving away the farm. No, we're all good. Okay. So here I am in my Facebook Ads Manager, and this is part and parcel of your Facebook Business Manager. So you've got to have a Business Manager account, which is free, dead easy to get. Don't worry about that. It's just different to your personal account. That's all. When you've got that, you'll come into where it's here. You'll come down to here, and you're just going to go over to what's called your audiences. All right. So you want to come into your audiences, and when you click on audiences, dun dun dun, just like that. It will then take you into your asset library. So these are all the different assets that I've created, you see. And you can see, look, I use this shit all the time. Look at all the different lookalike audiences I've put together. I've got like heaps of them because they work really, really well. All right. So how do you set up an audience? Well, first thing you've got to set up, weirdly, is click on Create Audience. You've got to set up a custom audience. So that's the first thing that you've got to set up. And there's lots of different ways you can do that, look. And if you're in my inner circle, then you'll already know some of the sexy shit that you can do from that. So website traffic, for instance, if you're using a landing page as a strategy, something again I teach in my inner circle, or if you're running video ads, again that's something I've covered in inner circle, yada 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 yada, come and join inner circle. Anyway, so we want to talk about customer files because that's what this is. It's a customer file. So you will then, Mark, upload your customer file as a CSV here. So that's what you would do. Click on that, use a file that doesn't include lifetime value. Typically that would be the case because you wouldn't know your lifetime value. Just upload it there, and then you're going to upload your original file, okay? So you select it, upload your file just there, name your audience, add a little description in. So I always add a description in too. whatever it is. And typically what I'm putting is where I got the audience. So in this case, it would be Kibley. What they purchased, so Santa socks, I don't know, and how old the audience is. So what's the total amount of time that it took to generate this audience? So from the 1st of August to the 30th of August, for instance. Fill all that in, upload it, and then that will then create what's called a custom audience. Once that has gone through the process, typically that takes about 10 minutes to 20 minutes, and then you come back to create audience, and then you're going to go lookalike audience. And now you can select the source. So here you would start typing the name of your source. So for instance, if I was going to do raw local Australia pixel, for instance, then that's how I would start that process. And then what I do is you want to put your audience location. So let's just say I'm going to be selling in good old Australia. Dun, dun, dun. That then looks at all the people who are in Australia, and I set up 2 lookalike audiences. This is a really cool thing to do. So the first audience that you set up is just the default, So you can see here, I've got 0 to 1% is the relative. How's the best way to describe it? These are the people who most look like your existing customers. They're the closest to them in their demographics and their psychographics. They're the closest people. They're the top 1%, if you like. So I set that up, create my audience, and then I set up a 1 to 2% audience. So I set up 2 different lookalikes and I run traffic to both of them. And typically, it's not as good, the 1 to 2%, but it's still good enough that it makes you money. And that's the better way to do it, rather than just having your audience like that, where you go from 0 to 2%. Don't do that. That's not the best way. Set up separate ones. So you've got 0 to 1%, that's your top 1%, and this is your top 2%, if that makes sense. So, hope that makes sense, Mr. Rogers. And you got all that. Karen, I have heard you need a minimum of 1,000 emails to a lookalike audience. Is that correct? Nope, it's not correct at all. I don't know where you got that from, but that's not true at all. Hope that helps, Mark. I use lookalike audiences so much. I mean, you can see I just use them all the time, and they are incredibly good. Hey, thanks so much for watching that video, and I hope that you got some massive value from it. Before you go, do you live in Australia? If you do, this is for you. Would you like to learn how to sell things on Amazon here in Australia? Would you like to know what sells really, really well and what sells for the maximum amount of profit? Would you like to know where you can source those products from, whether that be in China or here in Australia, and how to source them so you pay bottom dollar and get maximum value for what you're doing? If you do, please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and you'll learn that and much more. It's the exact same information that people like Jeff from New South Wales I've used to make $45,000 a month on Amazon, that Sue, who's from the sunny coast, has used to purchase herself a brand spankly BMW every single year as a result of her e-commerce business, and the lovely Kate from Bowral in New South Wales has used to make $32,000 a year on a month, not a year, a month on Amazon, and indeed Anthony, who makes $15,000 a month on Amazon, selling, as he puts it, odds and sods. If you'd like to learn the exact same information that they use to maximize their profits for their Amazon businesses, subscribe to this video, like my channel, post below if you want me to teach you something. Okay, I'm out of here. Speak to you soon. Bye. Subscribe. Do it now.